everybody! There's a big red pimple on my face right now, and I bet you can't find it. That's because I covered it up with the magic of makeup. And I'm going to show you how to do it too, so keep watching. So yeah, there's that bad boy. It's been there for like, I want to say a couple weeks. Like, it's taking its own sweet time to go away. I mean, it used to be a lot worse, like a week ago, but let's get to this. I already prepped and primed my face. Usually I only use moisturizer as a primer, but today I did an extra step just to make sure the products stay on the pimple. I used the Ordinary's silicone primer, high adherence silicone primer, and for my foundation, I've mixed two. I have they're both from IT Cosmetics, and I have the CC Your Skin But Better CC cream in the shade Light, and I have Bye Bye Foundation Full Coverage Moisturizer in the shade Fair. This one's too light for me, this one's too dark for me right now, so I mixed them both. They have similar consistencies. So I'm going to get to applying that to my face. When I'm covering blemishes, I like to, wow, that's a lot. I like to use a foundation that is not drying, not cakey, not matte, because when you're covering pimples, you don't want it to look cakey over the pimples. And I personally think that if you are gonna have blemishes, that they look better on a little bit more glowy skin than on a super matte, chalky skin. And also, as you may know, if you've gotten pimples, that a lot of the times when you have product on top, the pimples can dry out like over the course of the day, and it looks just like crusty and gross. So I like to choose a foundation that's not drying. And this fits the bill, and it also has good coverage, which you can tell it covered up the pimple already, like, pretty well. For this foundation, I also like to bring it up into my under eyes a little bit, just because I feel like it does give me just as much coverage as a concealer may. At least enough coverage for what I need right now. It does tend to crease a little bit if you do that, so you have to make sure to kind of blot it out after you apply it if you're going all the way up into your under eyes. I'm trying to stay away from my eyebrows because I already drew them on. One day I'll do an eyebrow video and you'll see what my eyebrows or lack of eyebrows really look like. Okay, we're almost done. Another good thing about these two foundations is that they have SPF in them, and it's the good kind of SPF. It's a titanium dioxide zinc oxide combo, as opposed to the more chemically, like, bad chemicals that some sunscreens tend to have, like the ones that begin with O and A. They're too long of a word for me to remember how to say it, but I stick with titanium dioxide and zinc oxide on my face at least. Yeah. Okay, is this pretty well blended? I'm using a damp sponge, by the way, because I like the way that that applies this foundation. Okay. Let's see next. So one of the tricks I like to remember with pimples is the less product you can use, the better. And do not do what all these YouTubers do, where they put concealer like all over. Like, there's no need for all of those products on your face. All you need is to cover up only where the blemish is. So I'm going to take a small, tiny brush to apply a very small amount of concealer. And I like to use a concealer that, again, is not dry or cakey, not matte. And also it helps to match the concealer to your face, to your foundation or your face, whatever you're wearing. If you're wearing your natural face or foundation. I think this is a pretty good match. I'm using the Wet n Wild Photofocus Concealer. I really like this concealer. It's got a good, pretty creamy consistency, but it's also got enough coverage. So yes, as a general rule, I stay away from matte concealers and cakey concealers, especially because I have dry skin. So I'm just going to dip my tiny brush into a tiny portion of concealer. Let me get my small mirror. I'm only going to apply this directly to the red spot and then blend it out a little bit. Let's see. This concealer might be a shade too light for what I'm doing. It really helps if it matches your skin color, but that's okay. I'm just gonna get a little tiny dab more. Went a little bit out of bounds on that one, so I'm gonna take a small sort of fluffy-ish concealer brush and kind of blend that out a little bit. I'm going to use the warmth of my finger to sort of blend it a little bit more. Again, the concealer is a little bit too light, so you can see the dot, but we're going to fix that with powder. So I'm using my Bobbi Brown Sheer Finish pressed powder in the shade Pale Yellow. Just going to take some of that, tap off the excess, and just pat down. trying not to disturb the monster beneath the skin. And then I'm just going to blend out that powder. Can't even tell, right? You know, it might work to our advantage, the position of the pimple, which is pretty much where, kind of where I would normally put blush. And I am going to put blush over it because that will work to kind of conceal it a little bit better. But first I'm going to do a light application of some concealer just where the foundation didn't really get too much. Don't forget these inner parts where you tend to be dark, if you're like me anyway. Blending it out with the warmth of my finger. I'm going to be doing a video on concealer as well because there are some good tips or tricks to remember with concealer that I think people should know that I've learned. All right. Gonna blend that out a little bit. Now for blush, we're going over the blemish, so I want to not use a shimmery blush because the way the light reflects off of it will kind of pronounce it if we use too shimmery of a blush. So I'm going to use one that's pretty matte, which is my Wet n Wild Mellow Wine. I'm going to use a pretty, this brush is pretty fluffy because I don't want to disturb the blemish with a stiff brush. I'm just going to go over it. This might be slightly lower than I would put blush down here normally, but I want to include the pimple with my blush application. Let me get my mirror. It might be a little bit too dark of an application, too heavy of an application, because I forgot that this foundation kind of picks up a lot of product because it is kind of dewy, pretty dewy. But that's okay because we can mitigate that with a light dusting of powder if we need to. Let me see. I'm just going to get that even. Looks a little heavy right now, so I'm going to go over it with light dusting of translucent. I'm going to use this MAC Mineralize Skin Finish in the shade Light. Looks like this. It is a really fair color on me, so I think it'll do a good job of calming down this pink. This isn't ideal to put all of these products on top of the pimple, but it'll be okay. What pimple? I'm going to use my NYX eyeliner in the color Emerald City. Got an eyelash. Make a wish. I'm just going to do the outer part of my eye. So I don't know if I emphasized before the importance of moisturizer on your face when you're doing any makeup application, but especially when you're trying to cover pimples. Some people believe that if you put moisturizer over pimples that makes it more oily and then you're going to break out more, but that's not true. You need moisturizer even if you have pimples, especially to avoid getting that dry, cakey makeup look that some people get when they cover their pimples. And it's just good for your skin. You need a smooth, as smooth of a canvas as you can have when working with makeup anyway. I actually got this one on Amazon. It's called Lamora Au Naturel Nudes. And it's really good. And I think it was around $10. I'm just going to do a natural look, maybe using this taupey color on my crease, on my transition from the brow bone to the lid. Tap my brush. I forgot to put concealer or primer on my eyelids. Oh well. Let's see. I'm gonna do that same color, a little light taupey color, underneath the green eyeliner on my lower lash line. I'm going to use that same brush and sort of pat in this lighter, shimmerier shade on my lid. then finish off my lids with a darker color in the crease. Kind of give it some depth. Let's see. Let's do this one, and I'm going to try not to get too much on my brush. Tap, tap. Wipe it on my paper towel. Tap, tap. So this is a nice natural look to make the green eyeliner kind of pop. Let me look in the mirror and see how even this is. Pretty good. I'm just going to kind of blend that all together. Make it more cohesive. Okay. Next, I'm going to do mascara. I've been trying this Lash Princess by Flower Beauty. Wait, it's not Lash Princess, it's Lash Warrior. And it's not Warrior Princess, it's not Xena Warrior Princess, it's Lash Warrior by Flower Beauty, by the Drew Barrymore line. It's in the color Fierce Black. I've been trying this. I'm not certain how I feel about it yet. I do know that it's good at volumizing, which it does claim to be. It doesn't claim to be necessarily lengthening, and I don't think it really is. But it definitely is volumizing. It's got one of those plastic bristle brushes, which I'm not a huge fan of, because I feel like it like scrapes my eye. But it is volumizing, and another good thing about this I've noticed is that it's very buildable. If you build upon it while the lashes are still wet, like I'll do it again. I'll do another coat. Okay, so I applied the rest of my mascara. It's not my favorite mascara, but it's still a good mascara. It's very volumizing, and I think I just don't like the wetness of the formula. It makes it so that it's buildable, but it also makes it so that it's not stiff enough to where my lashes go the way that I want them to go. So still good. You're still my girl Drew, but it's not my favorite. That's not to say that it wouldn't be your favorite though. I did go in with a very, very tiny amount of the blush that I used, and I went on top of the pimple just a little bit more because I felt like the pimple was just a little bit too lighter than the rest of the cheek, and we want to camouflage that and make it blend in as much as possible. So I think it helped, right? So another thing that would detract from my blemish would be a nice pretty darkish lip. So I'm going to use the Anastacia Matte Lip in the color Dead Roses. Hopefully that equals Dead Pimples. Such a good color. This is a nice creamy consistency, yet it's matte. It's not non-transferable, but that's okay because that usually means that it's not super drying too. The non-transferable mattes are always so drying. There we go. I hope you learned something new about covering pimples or blemishes. And just remember, even if we do have blemishes, we were still born perfect. Thank you, and please like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.